Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome back to the free-to-play review. So today's topic is going to be the latest iteration of the Hero's Path, specifically the Dancer's Path in celebration, or I guess as part of the ongoing Fragment Summon event for Esme the Dancer. As we spoke about in my fusion plan for Esme the Dancer, this is going to be replacing the standard summon rush for the purposes of the fusion, but there is also the Dungeon Divers aspect, so you can get some credit for running Fire Knight, and I think Dragon is coming up tomorrow, so over the course of the next couple of days, you do have an opportunity to be running some dungeons, or if you're skipping the fusion, you could just be working on the event dungeon, for example. But the primary mode of gaining points, of course, is going to be pulling shards, and it is a summon rush, meaning you get a fixed amount of points for each shard type. In terms of what's up for grabs in the path itself, there are up to 25 fragments, which does mean, of course, when the entire fusion itself has 115 fragments, that you need only 10, assuming you do everything else, but you could have an extra of up to 15 if you wanted to do so, if you wanted to pursue it, and we'll talk about how much that might potentially cost you. But you can see there are some points locked here behind 2 keys, but the keys are further down. The more accessible ones, 5 here and 5 here, which are independent of the keys, are the cheapest. So they actually made it quite easy to get the bare minimum 10 that you will need to complete the fusion without having to worry about any of the keys. But if you do want to go for 15 plus all the way down to the 25, you will need to get both of the keys, then come down the center path, unlock it, and then you can unlock the other 15. If you happen to not care about any of that, there's also legendary tomes up for grabs, mythical tomes, and then there are the souls here. But you probably don't care about her 5-star soul if you don't have the champion, so I'd expect that you'd be at least trying to get some of the fragments if you really cared about getting her 5-star awakened. And then of course, because this is the Valentine's Day event, you do also have the 5-star perfect soul for her partner Moto of the Peel, who obviously if you don't have his 5-star blessing is a lot less valuable. And then beyond that, which is unfortunate, but the avatar frame that's Valentine's Day themed is way down there, but you have to go through the souls, which is quite expensive, as we'll get into, which is I guess a brilliant segue. Might as well talk about it. So believe it or not, the cheapest thing you can actually do is snag yourself one of the legendary tomes, either on the left hand side here or the right hand side. They're functionally equivalent in terms of cost, and by doing so you will guarantee yourself 5 fragments, which could be used for the purposes of the fragment summon and or for Maud in the future. But that will cost you 28,000 points just to get one of the legendary tomes on one of the sides. If you truly wanted to min-max and you only want to do what's required to get the fusion completed, meaning you're doing all the, or you plan to do all the other events and you only need the 10 fragments from this path, then if you just come down the left hand side and the right hand side, stopping at the fragments for each, that's going to cost you 34,000 points. If you wanted to get yourself just a mythical tome, that's the third cheapest option, and essentially you do the same thing as the legendary tome path, but you just come down here after the key and pick up the mythical tome, and coincidentally that is 38,000 points, and that will be the exact same cost if you were to try and get both legendary tomes by coming down one of the left hand or the right hand side. If you wanted to then go a little bit beyond it, you want to bank some extra fragments, or you plan to skip some other events, then let's say you wanted to get 15 fragments, so you still have to come down the left hand and the right hand side, grab the keys, use both of them here, and then 3,000 there for a grand total of 39,000 points. And then after that, it gets pretty expensive, so if you wanted to get 20 fragments, unfortunately they are on separate paths of the middle path. So coming down either side here to get 20 fragments would be 58,000 points in total, and then going down the other side to get 25 total fragments would be 77,000 points. But of course, the most expensive thing would be if you really just wanted to get yourself one of the 5-star souls. So it's basically the same as the legendary tome path. That is the cheapest option here once you get to this row, and then you add 50,000 on top of that for a grand total of 78,000 points to get yourself a 5-star soul. Now, as usual, let's hop over to the spreadsheet to look at the same information in a more digestible format translated into shards. And I do want to mention that they did give us a free Valentine's gift that included one legendary tome and I believe 4,500 points in the Hero's Path, so effectively the amount of points for a sacred shard, which is very, very kind of them. So everything we talk about here in terms of shards is not including the fact that you got one for free, so to speak, one sacred's worth for free. So as I mentioned earlier, there is technically the Dungeon Divers aspect, which you can see the calculations for here. So you can see the amount of currency you're going to get for each type of run. Normal mode stage 20, stage 24, 25, hard mode 6, and hard mode 10. So roughly speaking, anywhere between about 2 currency per energy all the way down to like 1.65, so 1.5 to 2 depending on which level you're running it. But that does highlight the fact that stage 20 normal mode is still the most efficient stage in terms of currency per energy. And then you also get some from running campaign, because champion training tournament starts tomorrow, so you might get some credit from that as well, which can just help you offset the cost in terms of shards that you're gonna have to spend. And speaking of the cost in terms of shards, over here we have all the different things that we spoke about: legendary tome, 10 fragments, mythical tome, 15, 20, 25, and then the soul. And then if we come down to the summon rush section here, you can see what it breaks down to in terms of shards. There are values for each of the different shard types, but I typically focus on the sacred, so I'll just call out a few of them. If you wanted to just min-max and get the fusion complete, you just want the 10 fragments, you would need a total of 8 sacreds to get it done. But again, keep in mind that we're given one effectively for free in terms of the currency, and so you'd only have to use 7 of your own sacreds in order to get 10 of the fragments, which is pretty standard for a fusion summon rush, around 3,500 points in a standard fusion summon rush. If you wanted to go further than that, of course, it's just going to be a little bit more expensive. So 15 fragments would be a grand total of 9 sacreds. Again, 8 plus the one that we were given for free effectively. If you wanted all 25 fragments, it'd be 18 sacreds worth. And then if you wanted the 5-star soul, just one of them, it would be, again, 18 sacreds worth. The spreadsheet will be linked in the description box down below if you'd like to check it out for yourself. And while we're here, I might as well hop over to a different tab that we looked at before, the fusion plan tab here. So if we zoom out a little bit, for Esme the Dancer, one thing I wanted to comment on relative to what I'm doing in this particular case is that the first dungeon divers, I did decide, my ultimate decision, to just go for the lower milestone of the 3,600 and not pursue the 4,950 over the course of 3 days. I think that was just a lot more expensive. I didn't want to drop a ton of gems to get that done. So in my particular instance, I do have to get 15 of the fragments in order to fully complete the fusion. So if we hop back over to the Hero's Path calculator, then that would mean that I'm in this category, and would mean that I would need to pull 8 of my own sacreds. But most likely I'm going to wait until Sunday, and so I'm going to get some on Sunday nights more specifically, and so I'm going to get some Dungeon Divers credit over the next couple of days or so, day and a half, at least at the time of this recording. So there's a decent chance that I can dungeon dive my way down to a effective cost of 7 sacreds, which again is on par for a standard fusion, despite me going for a little bit more than is required in terms of the minimum for the fusion. So for this one, my recommendation is kind of just do as much as you need. It kind of depends. If you're not going for the fusion, then you don't really have to do anything at all. You can just maybe work on some dungeons and hope that you get, some fragments or some decent rewards, whatever is kind of tickling your fancy here. If you are going for the fusion, then of course you just need to pull however many fragments you need, depending on your strategy for completing the fusion. Or if you're just interested in the progressive chance events, some people that's what they go for, then you can just pull however amount of shards of whatever type that you want to go invest in a chance to get said legendaries, even though the odds are fairly low. But some people do like trying their luck, so if you are, then you might just be able to pick up some goodies along the way whilst chasing your most desired champions. Once again, I do think that the 5-star soul is relatively pointless unless you're going for the fusion, so I definitely would bank the fragments that you need before chasing something like that. That said, I don't think she is the most important champion to have awakened, but if it's something that's within reach and you do plan to use her in Hydra, for example, potentially in the arena, then the 5-star blessing can be pretty useful or impactful for that type of content for those areas of the game. So that's going to do it for the free-to-play review of the Dancer's Path. Let me know in the comment section down below how far you plan to go for your own account. Do you just want a legendary tome, walk away? Do you want to min-max for the purposes of completing the fragment summon? Or are you one of the bold people going all the way out there for the 5-star perfect souls? As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel. And feel free to hit that subscribe button down below if you're enjoying the content on the channel. The spreadsheet we looked at will be linked in the description box down below once again if you do want to check that out. Thanks for watching and have a good one.